Robert Mueller just died. Good. I'm glad he's dead. He can no longer hurt innocent people. That is just so gross. It's so nasty. You're the president. Just don't do this. Just don't send out this post. It's gross. Guys, up first, we're going to talk about a story from over the weekend that I was sad to see. I can't say I was particularly surprised or shocked, but then I was actually fascinated and disturbed by some interesting media coverage, or really the lack thereof, of this story that simply doesn't add up to me and has me asking some serious questions about Fox News. And so you've probably heard of this by now, but essentially the story started because over the weekend, Robert Mueller passed away. And if you don't remember, Robert Mueller was a longtime federal government employee, civil servant, who was brought in as a special prosecutor during Trump's first term, or special counsel, rather, to investigate allegations about Trump colluding with Russia to win his first election, and allegations of obstruction of justice. And what's fascinating about that is that it actually the report, it didn't exactly clear Trump, but it did say that it was not able to find conclusive evidence of his campaign colluding with Russia. It did lead to some indictments and prosecutions of some Trump campaign officials and some Russian nationals, but the big bombshell that was promised for years and was kind of spun along in mainstream media never actually was delivered. And Mueller's report, in the end, it just served to kind of help Trump beat some of these accusations. But of course, he did put Trump through quite a lot and kind of derailed the first Trump presidency. But he was just doing his job as a special prosecutor. I would say more of the blame really lies for that with kind of the mainstream media that made such a circus of the whole thing and ran so far ahead of the facts. But regardless, whether you loved him, hated him, whether you thought he was the worst hack in the world or an American hero, he passed away at an advanced age. His family announced over the weekend. And when it comes to these kinds of things, I always think that if you don't have anything nice to say, remember that saying nothing at all is in fact an option. But one person who really seems to be just physiologically incapable of not saying anything at all when he has nothing nice to say is the president of the United States, of course, Donald John Trump. He put out a Truth Social post and said, "Robert Mueller just died. Good. I'm glad he's dead. He can no longer hurt innocent people. President Donald J. Trump." He posted that on Truth Social. And I'm sorry, but that is just so gross. It's so nasty. Celebrating anyone's death is a bad look, especially when it's a political opponent who you might think did terrible things, but it's he also served the country in distinguished ways over the course of his career and lifetime, and he has family and loved ones. And it's you're the president. Just don't do this. Just don't send out this post. It's gross. It reminds me of the people who celebrated Charlie Kirk's death, and I pointed that out, that I always think it's wrong to cheer people's death. Right? Human life has value and dignity and worth, and we are debasing ourselves by celebrating death, and we are eroding our civil discourse and our society, especially when it's coming from the president. Now, of course, when I made that point online, people were like, "Oh, it's not the same as Charlie Kirk being killed." Of course, it's not the same. A political assassination is much worse than someone dying at an advanced age. But the principle, the reason I made the comparison, is just the principle that you should not celebrate the death of your opponents just because they were harshly opposed to you politically, or they think they're wrong, and that it is disgraceful and lacks class to do so. That's the same principle, even though the situations are obviously not the same. Comparing them doesn't mean they're the same. It just means there's a common thread that you think can be tied and connected between the two. So that's what I was trying to make the point there. But listen, I was really bothered by this post by the president. I think it's very unpresidential. I think it's embarrassing, but I'm not surprised. He did this with Rob Reiner a couple months ago. This is who he is. He's never going to change. It's baked in. I hate it, but listen, it is what it is at this point. But what I was a lot more surprised by was the really bizarre coverage of this incident on Fox News, or the lack thereof. They covered Robert Mueller's death, of course, as they would, because it's, a famous person of national political relevance passing away. But they completely ignored the president tweeting, quote, "I'm glad he's dead." That's not something that any news network would normally ever ignore at all. A president making a public statement saying that someone who just passed away, they're glad they're dead, is a remarkable development. Like it is a obviously newsworthy thing. And yet, here's the reporting from Mediaite. Fox News completely ignores Trump's bonkers statement on Mueller's death on air. President Donald Trump's shocking post celebrating the death of former FBI Director Robert Mueller has not received a single on-air mention over at Fox News. According to a search using the media monitoring service Snapstream, Fox News has not mentioned the president's statement a single time on its air since Mueller's passing on Saturday. That jaw-dropping postscript on the life of a decorated public servant has received nary a mention on Fox News. The network's chief political analyst, Britt Hume, did denounce Trump's comments in a post on X. I appreciated what he had to say about that. And other network contributors have in social media posts similarly condemns Trump's remarks. The network did cover Trump's remarks on its website and in an X post on the Fox News account, but that criticism hasn't been seen by Fox News viewers, and viewers haven't heard about Trump's words at all. This is really strange because, listen, to not even mention in your coverage, they've discussed this 6 times on air, according to another report I was looking at over the weekend, not mention the president's statement, you're not including all the relevant facts. You're not informing people. You are intentionally omitting key aspects of this story so that Trump doesn't look bad, because they know that if they tell people this, even Trump voters, even conservatives, even Fox News viewers will be like, really, Trump? That's kind of gross. That's kind of distasteful. You had to post that. So they just don't tell them at all. I'm sorry, guys. That is not news. That is propaganda. And I listen, I've probably appeared on Fox News or Fox Business more than 200 times. And most of it was during the Biden years to criticize Sleepy Joe and the insane cover-up of his cognitive decline, and Kamala Harris and her way with words, you know. Coconut tree. I kind of miss the coconut tree thing. It's camp at this point. But no, obviously their policies were disastrous. I stand by basically everything I ever said. But it has been surprising and disappointing to me the extent to which, since Trump became president again, most of Fox, and there's always exceptions. Whenever you're talking about any network, there's individual reporters and hosts who are still doing great work and commentators who still have integrity and honesty. So I'm generalizing here. I knew they would cover Trump favorably, but the extent to which it's just become like PR spin machine, almost uniform, flattering coverage, it has really disappointed me and astounded me. And this is an example. I mean, I'm going to show you a clip from when they discuss Mueller's passing on Fox News, on Fox and Friends, and tell me what you notice about this coverage. Listen to this.
Former FBI Director and Special Counsel Robert Mueller, who led the 2016 election interference probe tied to Russia, has died. His family releasing a statement, writing, quote, "With deep sadness, we are sharing the news that Bob passed away. His family asks that their privacy be respected." Former President George W. Bush, who nominated Mueller, says he is deeply saddened by the loss and praised him for his service to the country. Writing, quote, "Bob transitioned the agency mission to protecting the homeland after September 11. He led it effectively, helping prevent another terrorist attack on U.S. soil." While the cause of death has not been released, Mueller battled Parkinson's for several years. He was 81 years old.
You guys notice anything missing from that? They included, and listen, I understand why they included it. I'm not saying it's not newsworthy, but they included President Bush's comments, the former president who put out, just a polite, normal statement about this. They included that in their news package. They didn't include the current president saying, "I'm glad he's dead." That's diabolical, misleading coverage, omitting key facts from your write-up there, Fox News. Like, that is diabolical. And yet they're just doing this. And I guess some people who just watch Fox News will literally not have known about this significant statement by the president because they're just not going to tell you about it. That's why you can't be in an echo chamber. That's why you really have to, I believe pretty firmly that you have to watch all the media, right? You have got to watch the left-wing propaganda, you've got to watch the right-wing propaganda, you've got to read independent outlets and listen to smart and dashing YouTubers as well. And then you can figure out for yourself the truth. But if you only get your news from like one partisan source, you will literally just miss entire things because media bias is not just how they cover things, it's also what they cover and what they don't. And this is a really good example of that. Like, it is just journalistically indefensible to discuss this story and not mention a president's bombshell remarks. And we all know that's the thing. Like, just be so for real with me. Don't gaslight me right now. We all know if the parties were switched here, not only would Fox News certainly include it in their coverage, they'd be like, their hosts would be leading the charge about how nasty it is. If President Biden had publicly celebrated the death of one of his political ops and said, like, I'm glad he's dead, they would have been right. And I would have been 100% in agreement. Like, that's nasty, that's disrespectful, that's classless. We should expect better from the president. They'd be saying all of that. But because it's Trump and they otherwise support him, or they just want to stay in his good graces, they don't want him to get mad and write an angry Truth Social post about them. And as far as I'm concerned, he'll probably never notice me or have anything that I do. But were he to, and were he to write an angry Truth Social post, okay, I don't care. I just move on. But a lot of these people are really scared of like getting on his list for whatever reason. And it's like, if that's where you're at, that's okay. But you belong in public relations, not news. News is not supposed to be friendly buddy buddy with the government, right? It's supposed to be holding them accountable. Now, you're not supposed to just like lie about them and smear them at any cost, like some media does to the Trump administration. But you also just shouldn't constantly be trying to make them look good and omitting entire stories that aren't flattering for them, because that's propaganda. That's giving North Korea, and it is, I think, ridiculous and indefensible. And it's really frustrating the extent to which the brave truth tellers and independent journalists and all of this, who I agreed with and sided with during much of the Biden years, a lot of them are just mum on this kind of stuff, and just suddenly are kind of doing the reverse of what they used to criticize mainstream media for, and just omitting facts and deceptively covering stuff and kind of being partisan press. And it's like, I agreed with conservatives, and I still do, and Republicans, when they criticize the legacy media and the establishment media for its like strong liberal democratic bias. But then a lot of them kind of do the same thing in reverse. And I find that to be almost more disappointing, because like they're supposed to know better.